The Pacers were swept by the Cavs in the first round of the playoffs, and after Game 4, Paul George said he's not yet at the point of considering his future in Indiana, but while it may be too soon for PG-13 to contemplate, it's never too soon for us to discuss. Welcome to Give and Go, presented by State Farm. I'm Madeline Burke, joined by SI NBA writer Rohan Nadkarni and the Crossover's Deontay Prince. Guys, with the 2018 free agency looming, what is Paul George's future in Indiana?
I would like to see him stay in Indiana. You know, I said this earlier in the year, but I like to see teams keep their good players. And, you know, while the Pacers were swept in the first round, it was a close series with the Cavs. I don't think Indiana's that far off. I mean, you have a foundational star in Paul George. You have a budding star in Miles Turner. I think if they could get help around Paul George, they could be one of the better teams in the East. The problem is, you know, they've never been a free agent destination. They're not going to be in the lottery this year. So what are their realistic avenues to making the team better? I don't know. The Monte Ellis contract is going to be a problem. In terms of his future, you know, with all those things kind of stacked against them, I would not be shocked at a trade. I mean, he can be a free agent in 2018, and that kind of accelerates the timeline a little bit. So I wouldn't be shocked if starting this summer, Indy really looks close to trading him.
And, you know, Magic Johnson's already kind of put out that feeler, and, you know, he's not shy about saying he wants him to come to L.A.
Yeah, you gave all logical reasons, but Paul George gave us a lot of examples of why he probably won't go back to Indiana. He's pretty much been grumbling the entire playoffs. He's criticizing CJ for taking shots. He's criticizing Lance Stevenson for doing Lance Stevenson things and, you know, things we pretty much expect him to do. And he's basically just picking at scabs that are already there. I mean, Indiana doesn't have any other players to sort of take the pressure off him. So in a moment like that at the end of the game, obviously he wants that shot because he's the guy putting in all the work for them throughout the game. And we've basically seen like that pressure that he's had on him sort of manifest during these playoffs and, you know, come out through his frustration.
It's got to be kind of disheartening, too, to come out of that playoff series. 4 games, some of them very winnable, especially Game 3 for Indiana, and to have those late-game collapses like that, I mean, it's got to be kind of deflating.
Definitely. And I do think ultimately, as much as I would like to see him play in Indiana, I'd love to see him team up with another great player. And, you know, I know people think are a little weary of teaming up these days, but point being, you know, he's such a great player. He's never played with another, you know, quote-unquote superstar. I mean, he had Lance that one year. You know, he was playing out of his mind, but he's never played with someone who could take the pressure off of him in big moments. And we've seen it over and over again. So you're not going to win unless you have, you know, that other all-star, that other superstar type player. That's the same for LeBron James or Steph Curry, whoever it is. So I think Paul George deserves that. It'll be interesting to see how the market kind of shakes out this summer, but I'd love to see him, you know, whether it's in Indiana or elsewhere, play with more talent at least.
Well, the Clippers are a team that have a group of all-stars or former all-stars, but they suffered a big setback with Blake Griffin being ruled out for the remainder of the playoffs with a toe injury. Now, Blake and Chris Paul and J.J. Redick are all likely to become free agents this summer. Is this the year they break up the band in Lob City?
I think it's time. I don't know if they'll actually do it, just because Doc has obviously held on to this team until the last minute, and if he takes this team apart, I don't know what Doc would have going forward. He doesn't strike me as the type of guy who wants to rebuild and, you know, start from the ground up with draft picks and, you know, actually, you know, look at the waiver wire and try to pick up players that way. So, I don't know.
And realistically, they could offer Chris Paul and Blake Griffin a max contract. Blake can't get that super max contract, though, with that next level tier of payment because of his injuries in recent years, and he's been out so much.
Yeah, I think this is the year they're going to split up. I almost want to see them lose in the first round, frankly, only because seeing a wounded Clippers team without Blake Griffin try to keep up with the Warriors is going to be, it's just going to be sad, frankly. I think Chris Paul will stay in LA. He's had a great year, and he's been amazing again. So it will be sad that they break up, but, you know, maybe Blake Griffin can go back to Oklahoma City, or maybe he'll come play in Miami. We'll welcome him with open arms. But, you know, there are a lot of places for him to go. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see what the market is for Blake also, because with these injuries, will he get a max deal? It just takes one team to kind of set the market. So a lot of things, you know, a lot of dominoes have to fall, but I'm kind of expecting a breakup.
And we've seen, too, even last season in the regular season when Blake was out for a stretch, we saw how good the Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan tandem was without him. Not saying Blake isn't a key part of that team, but they can make do without him. They can make some noise without him. So we'll see kind of how that plays out in the playoffs.
Their biggest issue moving forward is Doc Rivers, the general manager. He hasn't proven that he could put a full team together yet. So
we'll see what he does with this offseason. All right, we'll continue to check out the Crossover on si.com/NBA for all the latest on and off the court.